Hello, everybody. It was a long weekend, but here we are. Happy Monday. Hello to future viewers. Hello to those of you who are here already. You're awesome, both of you. And how are we doing today? I've still got a little bit of my coffee left, so I am in a good mood. Been thinking about movies and shows recently because there's been so many that I've gone back for that I needed to. Also, we have a guest for this stream. She's slightly hiding behind me, but she is here. Sorry, I've been pretty dead. Let's see. Saturday? Yeah, it was Saturday. I spent so much time editing videos. I had some stuff I needed to knock out. We start to run out of space pretty quickly with these streams. Yeah, I've been watching, what is it, Modern Family? Me and my partner have been watching that. And I have been loving it. It's one that I had pretty much entirely missed. Like, I don't know if I had even seen any episodes of it. Oh. Well, I hope you're feeling better, friend. And hello, Aliased Fruit. I think it's been a minute since I've seen you. I think you showed up at the end of one of my streams before. Happy to see you at the beginning of this one. Been a little bit of shorter streams recently, around 2 hours. But I'm hoping to make everything in my life more efficient. This is the goal as I go along. How we all doing today? You got busy all the other times? Understandable. I know that a lot of people watch during work and stuff like that. So I understand that things get busy. And yes, we have a guest this stream. I centered it just to include our guest. Oh, she does not want me taking my hand away. This hand now belongs to Kitty. She starts holding my hand. It's very cute. But she's also threatening me. You know the thing they do with their claws where they're like, I could do it. I could do it if I wanted to. I know she won't. Because she loves me. But she wants me to know that she could. All because I threatened to pull my hand away. Exactly. Also, for the stream title, I'm talking things like Fight Club. Like, for me, one of those answers is Fight Club. I have a friend that we were just casually talking about it, and they brought up that they hadn't seen it, and it immediately made me go, wait, you haven't seen that? We need to watch that right now. How dare I stop petting her? Exactly. Exactly. I love that I have a spoiled cat. I figure I'm doing something right if my pet is spoiled. I might need an extra chair, though. She seems to firmly believe that that chair is hers, and she's kind of torn it apart in a way that signifies that. You've never seen Fight Club. Yeah, see, that, to me, that is foundational knowledge. You are missing so many references that you don't know you're missing if you haven't seen Fight Club. A bunch of Quentin Tarantino's movies are like that too. Stuff like Pulp Fiction being played in the background of other movies. There's a lot of very remixable lines in that movie, too. Highly recommend it. It's an interesting one, and there is a twist in it that you can only experience once. Like, once you've experienced it, you won't be able to watch the movie the same way. So in a way, you get 2 movies out of the one, at the very least. It's gonna be like watching JoJo, all the references exactly. For broadening the topic to include games, then I'm gonna say Portal as well. There are so many references to Portal, just scattered about everywhere, that until you play it, you don't see them. You may have an idea on what that twist is, unfortunately. Fair. Still a good movie, even if you know the twist. I still highly recommend. Portal is so good. I really did like Portal 2, but it felt different. Like, they didn't manage to do Portal 1 again. They managed to make something else separate that was also good, but with a very similar vibe. You know, like, it was in the same world, but it didn't feel the same. And I think that's the best that they could probably do. Like, if they were to try to make Portal again, then it probably would have been a flop. You have a stream room now. Woohoo. This is good news. It did feel different, but it was pretty good too. Yeah, I think so. Exactly. Like, it's not quite on the level of BioShock where you have to consider the games as their own game. You know, like if you play BioShock 1 and then you play BioShock Infinite expecting a contiguous experience, then you're going to be disappointed. But if you play BioShock 1 and then you play BioShock Infinite, fresh slate, you know, it's a completely separate game, they're both great games. You tried to play it, unfortunately got headaches, but you watched playthroughs of it and it was good. Good. Yeah, it's worth at least getting the story, but I can see how the change in perspectives that's so common, that could cause some headaches. In case of implosion, look directly at implosion. It's infinite, it better be continuous. Well, within itself, it is continuous. Oh, what else? Now, I think, personally, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, I think that's the name of it? Unbreakable, is it Unbreakable or The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt? Yeah, just Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. For me, personally, that is foundational knowledge. Like, I think everybody should watch that show. It's just that good. But also, it's so memeable. There are characters in that show that are asking, just begging and pleading to be memed. They deserve it. Titus deserves to be known. A movie you think everyone should be familiar with is at least one Studio Ghibli movie. At least one. Very much agreed. Very, very much agreed. I enforced that on my partner as well. We've actually watched several now. If people don't love Titus, you hate them. Understandable and reasonable, frankly. If they don't get Titus, then they won't get us. When you have to pretend to be the gay best friend, what's your persona? Oh, 1,000%. That's Titus. That's what's happening there. You know, it would be fun to do just chatting streams with you, Shika. Since you've got a stream room set up. We gotta figure that out because it's gonna be awesome. All we've needed is the people to be able to hear you clearly, you know? That's all we need. Ooh. I wish I could take this off. Just no longer have it there. It just bumped the stand that the microphone's on. It's like it no longer works and it's interfering with the one that does. You're on a 2-month streak. Congratulations. Thank you. Woohoo. Celebration. Thank you, friends. The final boss of calls, audio problems, absolutely. I want to be able to share my funny friends with you. But audio problems, man. I understand why people aren't there for that. I've been there myself. I realized, like, a couple weeks into streaming that literally just having the microphone be sat on, like, a tripod on the desk was half of my problem. It was causing everything to boom as soon as I touched the desk. Boom. Project Zomboid new character, Titus Andromedon. Yes. Yes, this has to happen. We know what's gonna happen if Hannibal dies, and it's gonna be really funny when Hannibal is replaced with Titus. Oh, what's her name? The character. If the character that I've been playing lives, then she's gonna go from having lived with Hannibal and fearing for her life for half of it, like at least the beginning part, to Titus, which is a completely different kind of drama. Is that what you're not supposed to do with a mic? Where do you put it then? Well, you must use your powers. Your powers of either psychokinesis or telekinesis, it depends. And you must hover it right there. It requires much focus, much training, and much pondering of the orb. She goes from fearing for her life to fearing for her fashion. Titus like, oh, I don't know if tie-dye does it for you. She's like, this isn't tie-dye. I've been fighting zombies. Oh yeah, it's the only way for it. You just gotta make things levitate. Actually, though, I have a... That shirt is sanguine! Finally, somebody used it right! I just got past that episode of Modern Family, too. Peak reference. Not very slay queen of you. I mean, actually... It's precisely slay queen! You know, she did well enough with Hannibal. If she can't handle Titus, then I don't know what to say for her. You know, if you can survive Hannibal in the apocalypse... Girl, if you don't go over there and take that zombie out, I'm gonna have to do it. Now, I don't look good in rock colors. Very, very slay queen zombies of you. Absolutely. There's gotta be, maybe that just is Michonne's deal. She just got long enough into the apocalypse that she's like, you know what? I'm the queen of the zombies now. Girl, that dried blood is so not your color. Fresh is better. Red works, but brown? Eh. Oh, I surprised her. Okay, but do you know how much better my shopping experience is now that everything's free, Kimmy? Do you? Actually, though, Titus would have fun if he had somebody to escort him to the clothing stores and all of that. Do you know how many costumes he could whip up? If anybody's gonna manage to sneak through the zombies because of disguise in Zomboid, it's gonna be Titus. How dare startle the kitty. Approach with caution. Danger, kitty. Oh, she flicked her paw at me. I'm not making fun of you. I am admiring the danger, kitty. Upside of the zombie apocalypse, all the clothes are free. Downside of the zombie apocalypse, where did your external validation go? You can't get rid of these things, Kimmy. They're memories. Each piece of clothing represents once memory of yourself. She is displeased. Oh. I'm sorry, baby. She tried to grab my hand again when I pulled it away. Now, it depends on if you get external validation from a crowd of people, a whole mob looking at you like they want to eat you. They think you're delicious. And you know, it's not even your body they're after. They think your brains look delicious. I think a certain kind of character could get external validation from zombies. Now, in order to keep getting that external validation, they have to be the type to violently reject that attention, even though they're enjoying it. The party seems a little dead. You're not wrong. They want you for your personality in your brain. The meaty parts. That meaty personality. brings a whole new meaning to cage dancing. Oh. Oh, wow. Oh. Listen, Titus, we can't carry all this stuff with us. We're not going to, Kimmy. You are. Okay, that actually would be a really funny duo to create. Just Titus and Kimmy. I don't think that I've created a character specifically to recreate somebody, like, in a show or otherwise. That's usually your deal. But if you go Titus and I end up dying on the current character, I may go Kimmy. Because she is genuinely one of my favorite characters in all of media. She is just such an optimist. It is wonderful. She goes through so much, and she is an eternal optimist. The crowd is in shambles. Oh. Brilliant. We'd have to make Kimmy just, like, ridiculously strong, though. Because that's how she's represented in the show. Is, like, she looks tiny, but she is ridiculously strong. In the activity feed, I get to look at all of the very wonderful and creative names from the name generator. I get to see that Clicky is Queen of the Dwarven Homeowners Association. I get to see... Oh, when Sheikah Land was named... I get to see Sheik and Nug, the chicken being named. Strength in numbers? Nah. Strength in Kimmy. Absolutely. Absolutely. See, the story of Kimmy is that she was kidnapped when she was in, like, middle school. So she doesn't have very many, like, skills, right? But she also didn't have much to do while she was down there. Like, they were all bored. So I'm sure that some of her strength comes from that. But also, I think at one point they had to turn some kind of crank to generate electricity. Her and the people she was kidnapped with were basically fooled into thinking that the world had ended. Like, while they were down in a bunker, kidnapped, they thought that there was no world above ground anymore. They were generating their own electricity, they were barely being fed, stuff like that. So a lot of her skill set comes from mental fortitude. Like, literally just the coping mechanisms that got her and the other girls that were in the bunker through that time. Because they all genuinely believed that the world had ended. Right? Right? And that is the beginning of the show. This is something that, right at the beginning of the show is when she gets let out of the bunker. Essentially, they get discovered. And she finds out that the world hasn't ended. There's a whole world out there for her to live in. But she doesn't know how to live in it anymore. However, what she learned while she was in the bunker, how to cope with crazy situations, remains useful to her. Oh, yeah, it is. It's really interesting to watch. Again, highly recommend it. It is extremely funny. Like, it is one of the funniest shows that I've watched. And I think it's because the subject matter would be incredibly heavy otherwise. But also, it's just the way that the character is. She is an optimist. A really just golden optimist. And it gets her through stuff. She would be a very fun character to play in the zombie apocalypse, like in the setting of Zomboid, given all of that. It would be an interesting character. Oh, what else? I feel like Fight Club is the given for movies. That one is the case for a lot of people as far as movies or shows that everyone would be familiar with. I'm trying to think of another movie though. I feel like there's some cheap and easy ones like like anything with historical significance is a very easy one to add to this list. Just because you get the emotional impact that you don't necessarily get from a historical textbook. There's no way she would believe that the zombie apocalypse had started only a few years after coming out of the bunker. True. True. She would be one of the characters to assume that she was literally just tripping. She, like... Oh, one of the funniest explanations that I've seen it was literally just a duo making a YouTube video of them playing Zomboid together. But early on in the run, they ended up foraging up some mushrooms that were just a little bit poisonous. Like, they made them nauseous, but it didn't kill them. And they both ate the mushrooms. Because the one ate it, and at first it was fine, and they were like, oh, I'll share the food. But then a little later on, they ended up getting nauseous. But it got to, like, a decent amount of time into the run, maybe an hour into the run, and they were surrounded by fallen zombies, they'd been fighting for this farm. They look around like, what if we were just tripping off of the mushrooms the entire time? Because they hear a siren, either in-game or in the background of one of their microphones, Like, they hear a siren and they're like, oh, wait. Are they gonna arrest us? These haven't been zombies. Those were some shrooms. What other ones? I think shows, it's a lot easier for me to think of than movies. Just because there's more time to do something substantial with a show, I feel like. Both in how attached we are to the characters, but also how much we can get from watching them. Fight Club was incredibly well thought out. I feel like Pulp Fiction, literally just for the references, is worth watching. Jim Carrey movie. The Truman Show. I went back relatively recently, like in the past few years, and watched The Truman Show. Because I was on a Jim Carrey kick. I'm like, well, what are Jim Carrey's favorite movies that he ever starred in, right? I was doing one of those where it's like, okay, I like watching this actor. What's their favorite thing they've done? The Truman Show. I realized after watching it just how many references I'd been missing. You really need to watch more stuff. I always feel like that whenever I'm looking at, like, what have I missed? All the lists of movies like this. The like top 10 of all times. And everyone's list is different. I really liked The Truman Show. Oh, there's another one along those lines. I think it was an Arnie movie. Oh, they remade The Running Man in 2025. I don't know how I feel about that. Because Arnie's performance was really good. Yeah, the 1987 version of The Running Man. I went back and watched that, and I was amazed to see that Arnie is more than just puns. He has lots of really good puns in that movie, even specifically. But they give him some real lines in that movie, and he actually delivers them. Oh, yeah. I showed up for the puns, but I was impressed that he had more to offer. You know? Ooh. In terms of shows, you'd like to bring up Avatar: The Last Airbender? Absolutely agreed. Very much agreed. And like, I watched that, I think I was in my teens when I watched that. My siblings watched it with me, and they were even younger though. And it's extremely accessible. I think that no matter your age range, you are going to get something from watching that show that will stick with you. For me, a lot of what stuck with me was Iroh. But there's so many extremely emotional and like just very well thought out plot lines that it's one of those things that you can watch it just to emotionally process something that's going on in your life, you know? You grew up on it? Yeah, similar situation. It was good at the time. You watched it a couple years ago, and yeah, still good. Absolutely. Even adults should watch that if they haven't watched it yet. That's what I'm saying. It's accessible to children, and like they'll still get something out of it. But everybody can get something out of watching that show. I wasn't as fond of Korra. I really liked Aang. Korra I was a little shakier on. It may have just been because Avatar: The Last Airbender was so well done. I may have just not been ready for them to try to follow that with something. The themes as well. Yeah, not really typical for a children's show, but they handle it really, really well. Yes. Very much agreed. There's some very real concepts that I think that, when you get to the difficult moments in life, you want to have a certain level of understanding going into it. And that show is good for that, where they're meeting some very serious topics in a thoughtful way. They managed to nail the balance of heavy, but it's not grim. And yeah, no, people definitely died here. Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's heavy, but it's not grim. It doesn't go too far into the comedic angle, but it also has funny. That it's a show that will make you laugh, it will make you cry, it will make you happy, it will make you sad, it will make you angry. Full range. And that's usually how I define like a good book or a good movie or a good show. if it can make me feel different things, if it can get me invested in it in that way, then it's probably pretty good. And yeah, it's definitely still relevant, I'd say. They went broad but also narrow enough to be very applicable to a lot of different situations. Like, it's specific, but it's also non-specific in just the right ways. My nose is messing with me today. Hello, allergies. Broad for the world events, so then they zoom into the gang and how they're personally affected by the world. Yes. Yeah, not only how they're personally affected by the world, but because of how those characters are, especially Aang, they get to know everybody that they meet. Aang, in a lot of ways, relies on the generosity of the people that he meets in the world. Even if that's just them not saying anything about having seen him. Because they spend a lot of time in not even just Fire Nation territory, but places that have been recently claimed by them. Where the people stand to lose a lot by hiding them. I really liked Zuko's redemption arc. Of all of the redemption arcs that I have witnessed in shows, in media, that had to be one of the best ones that I've seen. Because it's usually they don't give them enough time, honestly. It's this drastic shift in attitude where they realize that they were wrong the whole time. And Zuko kind of had that, but mostly it happened in parts. It was not a completely linear process. Aang is an incredible protagonist as well. A lot of action-y shows focus on the action and the fighting and not the consequences, but Aang's arc is directly about that. Yes. Yeah, the story had to cook long enough. I like that wording. Because at first, they're almost just introducing us to. It's not even introducing us to the world at first. Like, there's a little bit of introducing us to a small section of the world. Because the Water Nation tribe that they start with is somewhat isolated. And they're starting to introduce us to concepts about Aang. Like, mostly it's the Aang versus Zuko conflict that they're introducing at first. You think shows don't get enough time to cook nowadays? I would agree with that. A lot of them don't. Well, there's this thing where they don't know how many seasons they're going for. And, like, down to the pilot, they have to play it differently. They get squeezed into 8 or 10 episodes and they can't expand beyond that because they never know whether they'll get a second season. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Final Space, I think, is the most recent example I can think of that. And Final Space, by the way, what happened to it is absolutely tragic. I think I would recommend it in the light of it's something that everyone should watch. It's beautiful. You're familiar with it. Yeah. It is absolutely tragic what happened to it, though. The show that hits you with a freight train. Me too. Yeah. I think I would recommend it a lot more strongly if they had let it go as long as it needed to go. I hate that they canceled it before it was ready. I hate that there was so much to it that ended up having to be really rushed. Because he clearly had such a well thought out, like, worlds. Netflix loves canceling stuff. And the sick part is, like, he wanted to continue. If they had just let go of it instead of canceling it but keeping it, then that would have been fine, you know? Like, give it back to the artist at least, the person who made it. That is clearly a passion project. It's infuriating, honestly. Like, that is the new Firefly for me. You saw a pilot on YouTube that the same guy made, and Avocado was there. Oh. Yeah, no, I hate what they did to that. But Final Space was beautiful. And I think I would still recommend it, but you have to be prepared for... They did not do it justice. They did not give it the time that it needed. Even though there was something beautiful there. Yeah, that's another one that'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry, it'll make you angry. The humor was interesting. Certainly. They had lots of different sorts of humor mixed in. When you first picked it up, you're like, oh, this is a comedy, huh? Yeah. And then proceeded to cry. Yes, absolutely. Because, yeah, it's very funny. It has its moments where it is absolutely hilarious, even when the shit is hitting the fan actively. It can be funny. But it will hurt you. It will get you attached to the characters, and then it will hurt you with them. I think the wild part is about that too, is how they wrote the villains in it. It's not that the villains are like sympathetic exactly, you know, like it's not like you exactly want them to succeed, you know, you're not rooting for them. But you also can't hate them like you should. Given everything they're doing, you know too much about them to just hate them like you do when you don't know anything about them. Got crushed by that emotional freight train so many times, yeah. And there's so many, like, I think the Cruella movie probably received the most criticism of anything I've heard of for doing that wrong, where they took a character that is absolutely, you don't sympathize with the puppy hunter. And they tried to make her sympathetic, and they just absolutely failed at it. There's a way to do that wrong, and there's a way to do that right. And I think Final Space did it right. You can't remember too much about the villains, but you remember enjoying them. Yes, absolutely. The villains are actual characters that, they're absolutely evil, and they do horrible things to the characters you love, so you're not rooting for them. But you also almost want them to have a redemption arc or something. Like, you can, but you need to do it right. Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of that just comes from understanding the character. There are certain things that you're not going to be able to redeem. You know? But oh, Karen! Welcome. Happy to see you. The chair is in fact occupied. She decided to turn so you could see her. Oh. Yes, we have a guest star. Making a villain evil but still enjoyable enough to want to see more of them. Yes. Now, right now, we're talking Final Space as a really good example of that. Because the villains are genuinely entertaining, but also have really compelling stories. And I think the important thing is the show isn't trying to make you root for them. It's not trying to make you feel bad for them or anything like that. It's just showing you what happened. This is how they got there. The show with the cat avocado. Yeah, there are several cat people in that. It is sci-fi, so cat people as aliens, I suppose, is the thing there. They do play it as a comedic element, but also, like, it plays into other things, too. You'd also say Jack Horner from Puss in Boots 2, but in a comical way rather than a deep way. Fair. Fair. I haven't watched it myself, but I have watched I think it was sort of a compilation. Someone was going over their favorite villains and like the way that villains are being played in different things. From what I remember, that does fit. Like, he's very entertaining. He's not trying to be something that he's not, you know? Like, it's explained why he is that way. And for him, it makes sense. You know? Two cats, at least. I mean, there's a whole planet of them, right? You know? We for the cats. Absolutely, we love the cat people. Khajiit has wares and we are interested in them. See this cat, Avocado's son. Now I'm going to shred your heart with him. Yes, that is absolutely what they do. And it just builds on that. Like, wow. You think you're done crying about that, and then they make you cry about it again. You remember being weirdly annoyed by the protagonist of the show. I think that that's normal. No, I think that he's almost meant to elicit that response, especially at the beginning. Because he's it's not, I'm not saying he's an underdeveloped character. I'm saying he's underdeveloped as a human being. You know? Like, he's an idiot. Yes. He is an absolute idiot, and you see very quickly that that is a detriment to the people around him. You must take your leave now. You have a good rest of your day. Thank you, Alias Fruit. 'Twas good talking. Hey, we've got about an hour with the pre-roll off now. Oh, you prefer stories where there's no one clear villain or antagonist. I think I like that too. Like, you kind of just have to make your own judgments about what's happening. Rather than distinctly being like, here's the bad guy, here's the good guy. You're supposed to be rooting for the good guy. having something punchable feels like a cop out. I think it should always be a question, is this guy the good guy? You know, like, I think the best solution in all circumstances seems to be, well, you know, punch the guy. Don't let him finish his villain monologue and just punch him. Swear. If the protagonist would be just a little bit more willing to interrupt people, then things would be solved so much faster. Cyberpunk 2077. You're not saying that it has the best story, but it's like circumstance. I think it has a pretty good story. I haven't gone through all of it, so, you know, I know that the endings of stories do tend to color the perception of the rest of the story. But I think that there's so much to Cyberpunk 2077. Like, it's a very well fleshed out world. And a lot of the stuff kind of tracks. You know, like, they set up these characters, they set up these groups that interact with each other, and it makes sense how they interact with each other. And yeah, it's not clear who the good guy or the bad guy in a situation is. And that's very real, because at the end of the day, it's very much perspective. There are very few clear-cut, this is the bad guy situations. And if it looks that way, then somebody's probably lying. Something you didn't like about Expedition 33. It tries to be existential, but having the paint just to punch makes every death meaningful. Fair. Now, I didn't play through that one, but I know that it's one of those that people get really invested in when they start playing. Whew, what's it? One of my first answers to the topic, the what movies or shows do I think everyone should be familiar with, was Fight Club. And that actually fits what you're saying pretty well, in that you're being shown things happening. People making decisions, people interacting with each other, crazy stuff happening. But it's not telling you what to think about that necessarily. It's telling you what the characters would want you to think, you know, because they're often appealing to each other. But very unclear in some ways. You know, like they're not forcing you down a path as far as what you're thinking about it. So if we are to explore themes of real life, we can't be having a punchable guy. Or they all have to be punchable. That's the thing. And that's kind of like, that's why, oh, what's his name? Why am I blanking on his name? I'm so bad at this. Gary. The Gary. Gary being an idiot is important. I don't like perfect protagonists, is what I've found. No, Gary from Final Space. I had forgotten his name. It is a very plain name compared to some of the other ones. It's that he's an asshole. Yeah. No, I can see why you would have a problem with that. And I think you should. I think that that's part of the point, you know? Like, he's... It's real in that nobody is a perfect protagonist. Oh, yeah. There's no way that Gary should be the one saving the world. You know, like, the stakes go absolutely crazy in Final Space. Looking at Gary as a character, at his capacity, at how idiotic he is, at how much of an asshole he is, he has no fucking place saving the world. But, you know, he may not be the hero we want, but he's the hero that we have. You know? And that is pretty much always going to be the case. We want Superman, but we don't have Superman. There is no Superman at home. And if we want to be kind of like crass about it, nobody knows everything. Nobody knows everything. So we're all idiots in that light. We're all going to be idiots in some way. At some point in our life. We're all going to be assholes at one point in our life because we don't know how to be considerate of everybody. They haven't even told us. And everybody is extremely individual in that way. So if we're all idiots, we're all assholes, we can still do what we need to do. We can still do good. You know? Your partner really likes it. Good. And no, I don't think you're being dismissive of the show. I like that you challenge it. You know? Like, it's... if you were to ignore that Gary is an idiot and an asshole, then you would be missing part of the show. I think it does make it easier, certain shows, if you have somebody to root for, and they add characters like that a little bit later along. That you genuinely do want things to work out for. It's just there are a lot of characters that are there to make that more difficult. Whether they mean to or not. It's been a while since I watched it. I kind of want to rewatch it soon. I'm just going to be heartbroken all over again, but it'll be great. So real life doesn't have an antagonist, but what real life does have is a protagonist. A person can only be happy in life once they're happy with themselves. Hence, in your opinion, protagonist almost makes the story, if that makes sense. Well, I think because they're usually the person we're following. You know, like, we see their path. But also there is this aspect of nobody is the antagonist of their own story. Nobody's the villain of their own story. They aren't necessarily the hero of their own story either. But they can be a protagonist, especially if we consider that protagonists are often the most real when they are imperfect. A protagonist that I really like. And why is it Gary? I went back and rewatched all of the Dexter sequels recently, and I didn't like them very much, so I'm going to exclude them. Dexter is a very interesting protagonist to me, though, in the first show. Like the original. I went back and rewatched that whole thing, and it's one of those where it's like, yeah, this is actually as good as I remember. The guy from You. No, not YouTube. I want to look up You. Oh man. It's a popular psychological thriller series on Netflix. Starring people. A bookstore manager who uses stalking and manipulation to pursue love interests. The show has released 4 seasons with a 5th and final season in development. The series is known for its intense plot lines. I have not watched that one, but that does sound interesting. Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality, that is an extremely interesting protagonist. Winnie the Pooh from the Tao of Pooh. But yeah, Methods of Rationality, it's a fanfic with a higher word count than the first 4 Harry Potter books for the first book, where Harry is a genius rationalist who doesn't believe in magic. It is a fan fiction, but also one of the best books I've ever read. Agreed. Man destroys magic with facts and logic. The thing is, he learns how to use it. At first, he's like having an existential crisis a little bit because it's like, no, there has to be an explanation. But then because he's actually looking for the facts and the logic and the magic, he gets really good at using it. Like, creative. But yeah, that, there are also some extremely gruesome parts where it veers towards... Yeah, in this situation, this would not turn out nearly as well as it did in the movies or the original books. No. In the fan fiction, this is going to go very, very badly for your beloved characters. I kind of love it for that. It's terrible. It's horrible. But I love it. In the same way that I like how they torture us on Zomboid by making it more difficult. Like, oh, muscle fatigue. I guess that is realistic. I hate it. Thank you. Oh, the sprinters shriek now. I hear the screams of the damned. Oh, I hate it so much. I want more. I feel like games and books and stuff like that can be easier to answer this question with too. Ooh, this is something that bugged you, no pun intended, about the Mass Effect trilogy. Everyone hates you when you say this. Ooh. Tense ground. You feel like Shepard is a bit of a boring protagonist with no personal life and no personality besides hard-ass soldier. Yawn. I feel like Shepard is one of those protags that you're meant to project yourself onto to some extent. That's why probably they're so blank slate. 'Cause yeah, they kind of have stuff going on, but a lot of that has to do with the stuff that you do when you're controlling the character. And how you progress the story and the relationships between the characters. It doesn't actually have to do with what they were doing before you came along. So yeah, I think they were doing the Master Chief thing. Even Master Chief is kind of more interesting than Shepard, though. feel like the intrigue when it comes to Shepard is all about what you add to the story. There's a sliding scale of deliberate writing to systems driven. Yeah. Yeah. I know that part of why I sort of lean towards survival games is I do like to I like to immerse myself in the world, right? So with Zomboid, I'm not necessarily thinking like I'm in the apocalypse, this character is me. I am thinking of it more as this is somebody's story and I'm watching it unfold. But then, like, first person games, especially like Green Hell, it's very easy for me to. And the first time I played the story mode of Green Hell, I got so sidetracked just being somebody surviving in the jungle because it's a first person game. Half the time I forgot the guy and all his problems and that he was looking for his wife and all that. I would forget the story. I spent way too much time at the beginning when he would have gone rushing out right away. Because I wasn't thinking of it as this is the character, this is not me. There's this line where sometimes I'm immersed as me in the world and sometimes it's what would this character be doing? You know? Just watching it like a movie almost. Something like Zomboid is purely systems driven. You do all the storytelling, something like Skyrim is in the middle. You do like half of the storytelling in this headcanon. In your headcanon, yeah, like in your personal headcanon. A lot of that has to be imagined. Stardew also in the world, I would say that Stardew is a lot more fleshed out when it comes to the relationships between characters. Like, it sounds like there's a lot of variability and like, I don't go and talk to the characters every day. There's certain characters that if I'm walking past them in the street, I end up talking to them and I get more I get more text lines, not even voice lines. I'm doing the voice lines. But yeah, like the developing of the relationship has part to do with whether you actually like go and talk to the people. And the other part is the fact that there are actually different voice lines pretty much every day. And, like, if you do different things. Like, if you give them different gifts, then they say different things, whether they like it or not. It was a big debate in the world of Fallout. I can see how that would be. Because a lot of it is, like, you are a person living in a world. And that world has so much going on. But how the story unfolds has a lot to do with how you play it. That's what feels right in that game. When Fallout 4 was given a voiced protagonist and was suddenly a lot more of a fleshed out character and not a Skyrim-esque camera on legs. Yeah, like whether... like, am I playing a person or am I playing me? You know, like, how immersed am I? You know? Where, wasn't New Vegas? You're playing a messenger? Like, that character... Some of these characters in the Fallout games are actually pretty fleshed out. The courier, yeah. Yeah, like they're towing the line there though. I can see how that is. They're going for the middle by we gave you some details, but there's plenty that you can fill out on your own that makes it individual. I think they're going for replayability there, but it doesn't necessarily always hit. Like Cyberpunk, when I first started playing Cyberpunk, I thought there would probably be a lot of replayability because there's several different starts. But I played through the different starts and it looks like, for the most part, things are pretty much the same. You know, like once you've gone through all the plot lines, you've gone through all the plot lines. But I suppose it's just the perspective that you're going through the same story with is the difference. Are you showing off that belly? You feel like with an empty vessel protagonist, you can't have juicy drama. Agreed. Yeah, like you can only get so invested because they're not going to have written specific lines to your headcanon. Like, they want to be D&D, but they can't be. They can't be that responsive to everybody. So there is an issue with the blank slate route. Without being able to have personal drama, the story is forced to save the world or something completely impersonal. Yeah. Yeah. Where I feel like there's probably several ways to do that. I think Green Hell, they probably would have pulled that off a little bit better. If it wasn't first person. You feel like you're being a bit of an asshole? I don't think so. Green Hell is, at its very basic essence, it's man stuck on island. You know, like you're stuck on a, like in a tropical area. Where is it? Are they in the Amazon? Yeah, they are in the Amazon rainforest. They're in uncharted area in the Amazon. The summer version of The Long Dark, kind of. It kind of has that vibe, except it's like tribal camps and stuff like that you'll find instead of the villages, the full-on villages. Although The Long Dark has such a huge map. I have not seen everything they have there. I've seen like the logging camp and the one town. Long Dark is a game I might revisit sometime. That and like Medieval Dynasty, I tend to go back to a little bit at a time, kind of chip away at things. But Green Hell, it has an interesting enough story. There's a survival mode where it's just sort of endless, but there's also story modes. And it does have a pretty interesting story. It's just, I find it at least difficult from the first person perspective to stay immersed in somebody's story that is already written, you know? Even though you prefer deliberately written stories, there is something about survival games that makes emergent stories feel more real. Yes, very much agree. Like, it's really happening. Minecraft is a good example. There's no reloading. Yes. Yeah. Minecraft has so much replayability because of that as well. Like, everything about that game is kind of built for emergent storytelling. I think I prefer good, deliberately written stories, and a lot of them aren't. Like, I haven't played Senua's Sacrifice, but I watched one of my friends playing it. And that is a very well-written story. It is very much a game where, like, there's legit fighting. It looks like the fighting is actually pretty difficult. But a lot of the story is just you're walking through this world. like it's kind of more like the old style of games where you're on a track and you have to follow that track. There's just not doing the open world thing. But it pulls it off really, really well because it has a good, interesting story. Uncharted. I'm familiar with that. I haven't played it, I don't think. Okay. Yeah, I think probably. One of the things about survival games with multiplayer is the ability to tell a living story. It makes the world feel living, and there's only so much a playing alone can do. Yes, absolutely. I think it took me a good long time to get there with Zomboid, but it did eventually end up being. Most of my characters were just very lonely. You know? They they would end up being successful, and if they would live long enough, then they'd be like, what am I building this library for? Just for me? You know? You summoned Arm with the power of your spicy take. Indeed. To this day, the original ME trilogy has one of the best storylines in gaming history. Yeah, we were talking. It does. It has a really, really good storyline, and I think that that's why they can pull off the blank slate protagonist thing. Spicy Karens are your summoning types. Oh, it makes all too much sense. Yeah, it does. It makes the world feel living. I think Mass Effect, just because of how much of the story you got to write and how responsive the world was to you writing that story, I think that's why it can pull off the, you gotta decide who Shepard is. Shepard is not much of a character on their own, but with you, they have a whole interesting story. Oh, my allergies are horrible today, I'm sorry. Ryder had potential, but unfortunately EA assumed direct control and ruined it. Oh, Ryder. Your best shepherd was an unhinged soldier who believed in killing everyone. Yeah, I mean, it makes it more compelling. But you have to add the headcanon. Like, you have to decide that you're playing them a certain way with certain games. Ryder was in Mass Effect Andromeda, but was supposed to be the next big branch of Mass Effect universe. But they dropped it hardcore. Oh, man. Oh, Karen loved the Citadel DLC, though. It was a party vibe. You think I'd love the cinematic Mass Effect trilogy playthrough? I actually have, that's another one that I've watched somebody play. Because I just, like, I had it, and for the longest time, I just didn't play it. And my partner's like, no, I need you to know this story. So I ended up watching her playthrough. So I kind of got that. The cinematic experience. I wasn't the one playing it. But I feel like in that way I got to see more why they enjoyed the game, you know? I probably would enjoy playing through it at some point on my own. It's been long enough since I've watched it. Andromeda for you was just a retelling of Mass Effect, and it was too predictable. Fair. That is a shame. But yeah, I've heard very good things about Mass Effect, and I enjoyed watching the story well enough. Oh, it's a specific way of playing it through. Got you. The cinematic playthrough is playing the first few games as Paragons, then Cruel Diplomat for the third game. Okay. No, I mean, that sounds interesting. Something like that, I probably won't have seen the swap up there. You like Andromeda slightly more than the trilogy because Ryder has an actual family and more of a personality than Hard Ass Soldier. But you're used to being completely alone in that take. Your partner hates Andromeda. Oh. Yeah, see, if you like the blank slate thing and then they're telling you who your character is all of a sudden, then it feels weird. But name 3 characters from the game with any personality. If y'all had ships and a force, why didn't y'all fight the Reapers each time Andromeda is mentioned? I mean, he's making some points. He's making some points. It always reminds me of Berserker Base. I know it's part of a series, but I didn't read the rest of the series. It's a book. For ARM, Andromeda was nothing but a remake of Mass Effect 2. Fair. The protagonist being fleshed out is that important to you, Karen? Fair. Yeah, no, that is going to be such a matter of taste. In that case, you probably would enjoy. Oh, what is it called? Ah. Oh boy. The Witcher. That's what it was called. I guess the sneeze brought the memory back. You would probably enjoy the Witcher series. Because something that I didn't like about that is that the character is very much like he's already thought out. And he's not a character that I necessarily wanted to play, personally. But that was more like I went into it thinking in the I want to immerse myself into the world as a character that I have created, but that wasn't an option in that world, and he's caught up in all kinds of drama, and I started like a ways into the series too, so don't even know the character. Yes. Yeah, certain games really lean into the like you don't get to make your own character, but also the character you're playing is extremely fleshed out. Like they are a whole ass character. For ARM, a main character only takes a game so far. If they don't have a good support cast to feed on, then the game falls flat. Yeah. I feel like that's the case with or without a main character that's fleshed out, though. Like, even if it's a blank slate character, I think I played Dragon Age Inquisition, I think it was. Yeah, I remember that art. Uh, I played a bit of that. I didn't finish it, I don't think, because it kind of lost me at a certain point. But the characters, the supporting characters, the people that you gather up that join you, are really fun characters. Again, very well thought out characters. But your character, you have to come up with your story. Like you have to come up with a headcanon for your character because you are creating them from scratch. Like, yeah, Inquisition has a huge cast. The characters are actually like kind of caringly voice acted as well. Like they made an effort to actually make them feel like characters. I think Baldur's Gate 3 does that better. I like that Baldur's Gate 3 gives you a little bit more options as far as that goes. Like they're trying to replicate a D&D like experience. So they should give you a little bit more of an option because there's only so much they can do with like certain things have to be preset for it to work. Shepard had Garrus, Tali, Rex, Grunt, Liara, Ashley, even Caden, Jack, Miranda, Legion, Edie, Joker, even your little secretaries, and even that annoying reporter. Yeah, like Shepard was a blank slate, but they had a really strong supportive cast, like a lot of them, and also, again, the characters were lovingly voice acted. They were caringly created, and a lot of them were pretty consistent as far as the character goes. You don't really like the companions in the OG trilogy. Yeah, so much of it's going to come down to taste. I know that in the Mass Effect series in general, a lot of people really like that there's characters that you wouldn't see treated in a flattering light in other series. Some of that's like body type, some of that's their attitude, all kinds of stuff, but yeah, characters that most of the time they're not fan servicey enough, you know? They're not pretty enough in that specific way to the point where there's no representation for people who are attracted to something different, you know? Joker with his Chat GPT romance storyline. Oh god. Yeah, I know that Mass Effect is another one where the romance storylines are a thing, and that's a big part of what I've heard people being happy about is that you know there's more representation than you'd normally get. I guess Baldur's Gate 3 almost has that, but bears don't really count. You know? Yeah. Actual bears, you know? They loved to advertise that. Swear that's half the advertising I saw for Baldur's Gate 3 before it came out. You loved the fact that Shepard and Garrus were from two hating and warring cultures and ended up the best of friends. Yes! We love to see stuff like that. Like, I feel like Mass Effect did a decent job at, even though there are romance storylines, that's not the only reason to talk to the characters, and that it is actually worth being friends with the characters. For you, Shepard had so many ways to be played. Ryder, no matter what you did, was going to have the same outcome and have the same delivery. Fair. So replayability being a thing there for you. You're usually a big fan of romances in games, but in Mass Effect you don't like the romances. They feel like you're a boss hitting on employees. Yeah, that kind of seems like what it is, isn't it? And a lot of the circumstances in Mass Effect. Like, you hire them onto the ship and then you start hitting on them. That's, that could be counted as harassment, right? Most of the people you romance in ME don't even work for you. Okay. They're allies in war. So they're on the ship, but they're not, like, working for you. The ones people talk about are Garius, Liara, and Tali. Fair. They feel like sidekicks. They work with you. Okay. That's interesting then. You two have a slightly different perspective as far as, like, where those people stand compared to you. Interesting. Karen feels like she's their boss. Arm, you feel like you're fighting beside them. It's splitting hairs at that point. Your favorite BioWare game is Dragon Age 2. I think Inquisition is probably the only one of the Dragon Age games I played. But in Dragon Age 2, is that a similar one where it's a custom character, but they let you kind of specify a bit of background? Even though Origins is the contextual king. Oh, you're starting to see a trend with Karen and her choices. She likes the most basic games in the series. Rude. But also potentially correct. If you were to recommend a Dragon Age game, it'd be Origins for sure. Okay. Arm. Dragon Age 2, that's when the game got stripped down to just an action game. Dragon Age 2's protagonist is a lot more set. You can pick a personality and change the face, but your family members and backstory are set. Okay. Yeah, that it allows the sort of interpersonal drama with long-standing relationships that you haven't been playing the game long enough to actually establish. The gameplay changed from Origins for sure. Mash R to attack nearest enemy, so if tactical combat is your thing, that's where the series died. Oh man. But it sounds like you're looking at the story more than the combat with that. Arm doesn't mind the gameplay. You mind the fact that they decided to say F the roleplay aspect of an RPG to make it an action game. Well, that's interesting, because, Karen, you're saying the protagonist has a specific backstory, you know, like the family members and backstory in the game. Some non-BioWare RPGs. Me, personally, I grew up playing Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. So games like that, the Dark Alliance games on console, while I was waiting for another Baldur's Gate. I tend to like D&D styled ones. Like, I really like Pillars of Eternity as well. Oh man, I gotta go through my list. Cyberpunk, I was really enjoying. I was really enjoying Cyberpunk. I haven't gone through it entirely. I think I realized that Cyberpunk doesn't have much replayability, and I became hesitant to actually finish it. Oh, Beyond Two Souls. I really liked Beyond Two Souls. Phantom Liberty. The best part of Cyberpunk Fair. Phantom Liberty. Nice. Map and story expansion. Oh, I'm trying to find, because I think that I've gotten into some of that content. Is that the one in Dogtown? Yeah. It's the one that takes you to Dogtown, isn't it? There we go. It's the one with Idris Elba. I'm not good with names. Sorry. Names and faces. Even one as big as that. I know the name, but I can't connect it to a face in my brain. You're scared that Arm will call you basic for that opinion? No, I mean, I've not gotten through all of the content with it, but I've saved the president. Saved. You know? Temporarily at least. From the initial crash, like gone through a bit of that. I think the most memorable part of it for me so far is when she she has to take a tracker out from like next to her neck, and there's a little quick time event during it. And the body horror in that game, I don't know why that in particular. Maybe it's just because the proximity to arteries and stuff, but I did not like that. I feel like Cyberpunk, it was written, there had to be somebody working on it that had medical trauma or something like that. Because some of those scenes are so disturbing. In a way that they don't even need to be, you know? There doesn't seem to be like a whole lot of it. A lot of it's more like just medical trauma themes, like when you go to the Ripper docs and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that it's like ooh. But yeah, that one that caught me by surprise. Like you have to cut something out of her neck while you're both trying to run away. Arm, you like Pathfinder, Wraith of the Righteous. You didn't mind Alpha Protocol, Divinity Original Sin 2, Skyrim, Fallout 3, 4, and New Vegas, Cyberpunk, The Thaumaturge. Haven't played that. And Necromancer's Tale. Wow, a lot of these I haven't played. Wildermyth, Vampire the Masquerade, Redemption, and Bloodlines, Shadowrun series, Final Fantasy VII and its remakes, Persona series, Fire Emblem, Three Kingdoms. Yeah, most of those I have not played. I've played Skyrim, I've played Fallout 3, and I've played a little bit of New Vegas. I think I decided that I wanted to mod New Vegas before I went back to it, though. Just because graphically, it was kind of painful to go back to that after the fact. Shadowrun Trilogy is fantastic. Okay. Taking this as a recommendation. You were so happy they did the Shadow Returns line. Karen donated to the Kickstarters of those games. Awesome. Welcome. Thanks for the follow. Amy Farrah Fowler, I'm taking that as a compliment. She's awesome. She is. She's gorgeous. And she is genuinely funny, too. Tabletop is gonna suck without a good fun group. It always does. Tabletop lives and dies on the group you're playing it with. I have no idea. I'm gonna ban them for that, though. I figure that's gotta happen eventually. Whenever one puts themselves out there on the internet, there are some people that are gonna want to troll. They should be removed with a Thanos snap. See, the problem with the Thanos snap is you can't just remove... Okay, what is the dust? Does the dust return the organic matter back to the planet? That is my question. Because if it doesn't, then there's a huge issue with what he's doing. That should be extremely obvious to him with all of those stones. You know? Your partner's devastated at getting bad comments on his stuff. I think... Something I've said before is the nature of being an entertainer, putting yourself out there in that way, is that you don't really get to choose how people are entertained. And I understand that and I accept it, and I also recognize that any negative comments are going to be a lot more about the person giving them than they are about me. So most of the time it doesn't bother me. Why am I bouncing? Because I'm on a yoga ball. It's good for your back. I highly recommend it. It's good to be able to swap back and forth between a chair and a yoga ball. That is what I have found the best. Your problem with Thanos is that dude was too soft. You're not leaving any chance for a comeback? Arm, the real villain here. Arm is ready to be an antagonist. We heard your approach to Zomboid as well. You would have burned that house down. They don't get to enjoy my work. I had it hard. You should too. Now, they can be really good for laying on. Like, if you lay on your back and kind of roll back onto it, you can get a really good back crack that way. But yeah, they're good for posture correction and balance when you sit on them. They build your core strength. And for me, I think that there was probably some level, like the stuff around my spine, the stabilizing muscles probably needed a little bit more attention than they were getting from just regular life. So yeah, it helps with the stabilizing muscle, helps with your core, so that's how it helps with the posture instead of just, I don't know, making you tired. I think that's why it's important to be able to swap into the chair, because stabilizing muscles, especially if they're not worked often, because there's not much that does unless you're aiming for them, they can get tired pretty fast. But once they're exercised, it's much easier to have good posture. The yoga ball type things with the little handles. Your number one favorite method of transportation. It always reminds me of that one South Park episode. Every single time. I don't think I can avoid that association with it. Space hoppers are amazing, and the only reason you don't own one is that episode of South Park. Why are we letting that hold us back? Let's be real. If they are that amazing, and I bet they are, I bet that would be really fun, then why are we letting that hold us back? Now, okay, I'll tell you the one thing that would hold me back on that is it would be great until you take a fall. You take one fall in one of those, just face straight into the fucking ground, and you're having a bad time. I had no idea that they had a name like that. Space Hopper is a funny name for that. Yoga ball with a handle. Another good game, if you don't mind it being outdated, is called Tyranny, which had a very kind of rare take on things. Interesting. Looking this one up. I want a better description than... I mean, it's very... experience a story-driven RPG where your choices mean all the difference in the world. Rather vague explanation there. Give me more. Play an RPG with meaningful, world-altering choices, unique and memorable companions, and a new perspective on morality. Tyranny casts you as the arbiter of law in a world devastated by war and conquered by a despot. Will you work inside the system or try to dismantle it? And will it be for the glory of Kyros, for the good of the world, or for your own ambition? Actually, that's interesting. It has an award, Game Debate, Best RPG of 2016. I mean, worth adding to the list. Tyranny turns the archetypal RPG story on its head and allows players to explore a new take on good and evil. Player is not a random villager who rises to power, but an instrumental officer with considerable resources and authority. Use that power to enforce the new status quo or try to make things change from the inside. Now, that is a very interesting concept, I think. Because that's something that people play with all of the time, those kinds of concepts. If I like Pillars, then I'll like Tyranny. Fair. Yeah, if it's a similar kind of thing. I like the storytelling and just... like, you can walk up to basically any character and you learn something about the world. You don't even know if that's the actual name, but when you were a kid at after-school care, there was one there and that was referred to as a space hopper. Oh. You used to bounce on that thing like a maniac. That is what they are for. We should not be too shy to have fun. Yes, tell me about it, Arm. It's been 10 years. Do you remember the day it was released? There's so many things like that. Do you remember when Skyrim was released, guys? Whew. Have I ever wondered what would happen if the good guys lost? This is tyranny. You are the arbiter of a god whose power decimated the lands. You have the power to enact the will of said god, and as you travel, you tend to discover the source of that power. Oh, that's an interesting one. It's reminding me of another game that I watched being played. I don't know if I'm going to remember the name of it, though. I'll see if I can hunt it down. I know that I've watched a lot of videos with it. I'll revisit that at some point. While you remember, Clicky. Yoga balls are amazing to sit on because they train the muscles of the transverse plane and almost no movements in modern life train the transverse plane. Thank you. You literally know the name of what I was trying to talk about. Yeah. Like, it's awesome. It does it in such a way where it doesn't hurt. Exercise doesn't have to hurt, guys. It doesn't have to be an unpleasant thing. It can be a very fun thing. And it's often better when it is. And Cecil, The Untouchables, but the French version. It's a movie everyone should know. French films are interesting. Like, French films, they always seem to address, like, heavy topics. They do not shy away, it feels like. The Untouchables. Parisian aristocrat, quadriplegic since a paragliding accident, hires a young man to be his live-in caretaker. Although very different, the two men bond and develop a close friendship. Yeah, see, that is a heavy topic that that's a world that most people are not let in on. A lot of people don't experience anything like that, don't see anything like that. That is an interesting one. Thank you for the recommendation. Pounce for the glory of Kairos. Oh no. If it doesn't hurt, it isn't working. No, if it stops hurting, then it's worked. If you were a villain in a story arm, you would never run out of quotes to say as the heroes are slain. Pain lets you know you're alive as they're dying. Also, not a plug, but if you're on PC, highly recommend Epic Games just for the free stuff. Fair enough. 11 out of 10 movie hires a criminal that only applied to fulfill his welfare requirement. Oh. Yeah, that is an interesting concept already. Actually, I might add that to my watch later list already. That's I don't know if I've heard of a movie like that exactly. He gives him the job to mess with the guy. Ooh, Clicky has an answer too. Hacksaw Ridge. Have I watched that one? I think I have. Oh, this one. Just one more. Just one more. Oh man, Hacksaw Ridge. Okay, forewarning to anybody, if you're gonna watch Hacksaw Ridge, you gotta be ready because it is heavy. Like, that is a intense movie, but also you will never forget it. and the Untouchables. He gives him the job to mess with him. Then they become friends because Criminal Dude wants to drive the sports car, not the wheelchair van. It's one that you'll laugh and cry. Good. That's what we were saying earlier. That's how you know it's a good one. If it makes you laugh, it makes you cry, it makes you feel that whole range of emotions, it's probably a good one. The ending is, like, perfect. Oh, yeah. Very difficult to have a good ending. It's another thing that came up earlier is, if something has a bad ending, it can color one's perspective of the rest of the show or the movie. It doesn't leave you mad or sad or feeling bad or wanting for anything. Yeah, it actually wraps it up in a way that's satisfying. That is difficult. Arm's villain would be the one that points out, you're only a villain because... Oh, I'm only a villain because you disagree with me. Those that follow me see me as their hero and savior. Your people will see me as their liberator, and your family will see me as that which erased them from existence. And you will simply be forgotten. Oh, good stuff. Arm would be a chilling villain. A lot of villains aren't actually scary. Like, you couldn't put most villains in a horror movie. You put it above The Green Mile. I have watched The Green Mile, and fair. Yeah, I know that The Green Mile is one of those, for a lot of people, that everyone should watch at some point. The best villains are the ones who are relatable. Yeah, I think the best villains are ones that are not only relatable, but you can see exactly why they think the way they think. And you can see exactly, like, how they fell into the trap of thinking that way and exactly why they can't get out of it. Why who they are and how they think prevents them from thinking or doing any differently. Those are the best. Sometimes, though, because those can be the most tragic ones. Because you can see that there's no way out for them. There's no way around it. Like, that just is what's going to happen for them. And Cecil, it's so good they got Heisenberg and Kevin Hart to Englishify the French movie. But it sucks compared to the French one. Fair. Yeah, I think it was Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I watched it originally, the original version of it. I forget which language it's in, but not English. And then I watched the English version, and I was really disappointed in it. The emotional impact is usually kind of lost in the process. I'm gonna check. It might be Swedish. Yeah, it's Swedish. You got it right. Gradskaren. You know your stuff. There's two kinds of, like, relatable villain. The one that's tragic and you understand why, but there's no turning back for them. Or the relatable villain who you think you can redeem. I think offers a sort of emotional refuge for the mistakes the watcher themselves have made. No, that makes sense that would ring so true and so strong for so many people. If they're relating to it like that, where, like, it's a path that you can see yourself going down. But you also can see the way out for them, which means you can see the way out for yourself. That can be cathartic in a different kind of way, you know? I do love a good redemption arc. We were talking earlier about Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of those that everyone should watch it. Everybody could stand to benefit from it. It has one of the best redemption arcs in it that I have ever seen. Stieg Larsson, the writer of the book, is Swedish. Your Sadie Oh, man. Ah, did I read the book? It would have been a translated version if I read the book. It's been a while. It's been a while. Don't know if I did. Also, Karen, I almost missed that. You do some hobbyist game deving? That is a fun one to talk about here. Yeah, I mean, I figure most people in here like talking about games, right? If we like playing the games. Clicky, your favorite thing about Legend of Korra is that the cabbage guy finally got to sell his cabbages and it went well. What? I forgot about that. You know what? Knowing that now, that's probably my favorite part of Legend of Korra as well. That's not even the name of it. Is it? I guess it is, the Legend of Korra. Oh, God. That's such a worse title than Avatar The Last Airbender. I hate that they did that so soon. I think it was just too soon for me. Because I can't look at Korra and not be disappointed. Sorry, guys. But yeah, no, it is awesome that the cabbage guy finally got to sell his cabbages. The cabbage guy, Aang, legit is the villain of Cabbage Guy's story. Oh yeah, Tyranny. I was adding that to my list. It's $30 still. I guess it's got an award. It's got an award. It'll go on sale at some point. It's going on the wish list. It sounds interesting. I just think it sounds neat. You think you got it free on Epic? Okay. So is Epic like, do they do things like good old games do, where occasionally games will just be free? Okay. There's a great book set in the world of Avatar, The Rise of Kyoshi. Yes, that Kyoshi. I know that there's extra content. Like, I read a little comic at one point that was Avatar The Last Airbender characters. But I definitely haven't hunted down all there is to see with that. At least twice a month you get free games, and around Christmas they give away lots of games. Good to know. Turing Complete. Oh, fair. We're talking Turing Complete now. I think I started that game. I did actually start that game. But I didn't get very far into it before I got distracted by something else. It is surprisingly satisfying even if you're not, like, skillful in that kind of thing. I have a little bit of knowledge, but not that much knowledge in that stuff. There we go. Clicky's got an example. It's a pure logic puzzle game. The component level simulates logic elements and allows the construction of hardware from pure logic. For example, one of the levels is adder. The level requirement is to construct an 8-bit adder out of pure logic elements such as and, NAND, OR, and NOR. Wait. The sentence structure for that sentence in specific, because and means something different in this context, is very confusing. Like, you ended on nor. It's the end of a list separated by commas, so generally that would have an and, but nor isn't and nor. That would mean something different. Not the snick kind of adder, huh? Well, I mean, I know that you can shape it differently in that game, too. After a game called Catherine, you're traumatized by any kind of puzzle game. Huh. Fair enough. Don't know if I'm gonna read that one out this time, but you can look that up if you want to, if you're not familiar. That seems like a rabbit hole. It's also cumulative, wherein the hardware elements the player builds are used as components in further levels to construct components. So by the time you're building a CPU, you're incorporating your own registers, adder, RAM, etc. See, That's not the kind of game that I wanted that element in necessarily, but I do enjoy the zooming aspect of that. Like, that's what I want out of a Total War-like game. If I had Rome Total War, but I can zoom in and, like, build the buildings and build the walls and stuff how I want to, and then save that as, like, a blueprint or something. Be able to place that whenever I want. That kind of thing. Like, that level of control where I build it from the ground up. The little details, and then zoom out and use those components as components to something else. I would love that in a different kind of game. I'll probably like it in that game too once I get into it, but it's like, why? Why is here where I get this quality? That one was a special game. It looks like it. It's not one would forget soon. Oh man. You can construct your own language. Wow. I imagine it builds into the complex stuff in a similar way. As, like, at least the beginning levels of it are pretty accessible if you're just learning the stuff. You thought about incorporating logic or little programming things as mini games of some kind. Kind of forces the game's story to be about logic in some way. I can see how that would be. I think... The closest I can think of to that is a little indie game, but it's not exactly what we're talking here. Don't Escape 4 Days to Survive had some interesting minigame elements. Like, that dev in general has some really interesting elements with minigames. and how they contribute to the larger game. But it's not exactly that. The hack simulators never scratch the itch, though. I mean... yeah. Yeah, I can see how that would be. As much as I hate to interrupt this riveting conversation, I do need to go. My belly can only rumble at me so many times before I have to listen to it. So, I hope we all have a lovely day. A very wonderful time zone. I require food. Every Mass Effect fan. Curse Karen. You know. It sounds like you do like the Mass Effect games. It's just you enjoy them differently than typical. You like Andromeda, it's okay. Yeah, exactly. Someone has to like those games. It's lovely talking to you guys, though. I will see you tomorrow. Keep warm. Keep cozy. And see you soon, friends.